Alright, next video time. This one's a guide to buying a used motorcycle. Now, if you don't want to buy a brand spanking new one for a lot more money, it's really essential that you know the different things before you go out and buy a used motorcycle, because it's more than just what the outside looks like. There's a lot of things you need to consider. So we'll talk about the first thing is get to know the person who's selling the motorcycle. Ask them why they're selling it, how many they sell, if they're a collector of them, or what they do. Mostly it'll just be one person selling their one bike. I would recommend trying to find someone, ask them why they're selling it, such as maybe their wife doesn't like it, they got married, or they don't feel safe on it, they're trying to get rid of it only has a few thousand miles, or it's just something they never got into. Things to avoid would be people who say, oh, it just sits in the garage, because, if it just sits in the garage, they probably don't take care of it, let alone ride it anymore. Alright, so we'll just start off. First, ask them if the bike's ever been dropped. Just do a basic walk around by yourself, see if you can see any cosmetic damage. Big things would be right here with the forks, or obvious fairing damage. Usually they'll tell you. If they don't want you to know, they would have had it painted or anything. You want to know if the bike's been dropped, because when it drops, not only exterior damage, but components on the inside could be damaged that, if it's never been taken to a shop and inspected, it could be dangerous to ride. Alright, so you ask them if it's been dropped. You could tell by yourself to know if they're lying. Believe it or not, based on my bike, how new it looks and no damage on the outside, it's been dropped twice, so you wouldn't know just by looking at it unless you know what to look for. A good thing to look for that most people don't get fixed if they drop it, on my bike right here, would be, you can see that's indented right there on the brake handle, brake lever, compared to on this side where it's not. Also, the forks are a little scratched up right there. Most people aren't going to go and replace the whole forks. But aside from that, everything's pretty much flawless. I got new fairings, everything else repaired. And when I did drop it, part of the radiator was leaking. They didn't find that out till a couple months by, so the person might not know right away. That's why it's a good idea to keep it in mind. Alright, then you want to ask them about their maintenance that they take care of. Now, most people are going to lie about their maintenance, especially if they want to sell it, and especially if they didn't take care of it. So most people that do take care of their bike, it's rather expensive, so you'll see that they're not going to want to part with the bike. They'll kind of have a lingering feeling on it, like they'll mention they're going to miss their bike and everything. Ask them what type of oil they used, ask them how often they did it, and just little things, if they replace the filter, how often they replace the filter. They should know all that, which is every time you should be replacing the filter. Now, the biggest thing with motorcycles that people say are the tires and the chain. Inspect the tires. Now, I didn't get my tires chained on purpose before I made this video, so these are old. This front tire would be an example of worn down. Usually there's a flap, probably right about where that line is. If you can see that, it will be sticking out to show you down the wear. This needs to be replaced definitely. If you don't know much about tires, you wouldn't know that probably. Now, the back one's a little more recent. If I can find the flap. This one needs to be changed too, but it's not too worn down. You'd be able to tell by these strips that's kind of worn there. But if they're really worn, look for any discrepancies in the tire. And another part is the chain. You want to see, just based on their chain tension, how loose it is. If it's way loose or too tight, that could show they don't take care of their bike or no proper maintenance. For my chain, for example, right now, I'm just about to tighten it, but right now this would be considered a little loose, but that's still acceptable right now. You usually want an inch spare room with that, an inch to spare. But I'm going to tighten it. If it's way loose, like you could flop it around, that's really bad. You can also tell by the sprockets, if they're worn down, bent, or curved, they're not really pointy. That's a bad sign they're riding their bike when they should be riding it. Now, as for the inside of the bike, my biggest thing, if I were to buy a used motorcycle, is ask them about a valve adjustment. If you don't know about valve adjustments, what that is after a certain amount of miles you ride, depending on the bike, say this bike, it's a 650, it needs a valve adjustment, which is a pretty difficult mechanical task. I don't do it because I don't know how to do it, and I might not make it perfect, so I take it in. And that's about every 16,000 miles, and that runs about $400, $300 to $400, depending on what gaskets need to be changed. And I have them do that. It's about a yearly maintenance. And most people that don't know about bikes, they just ride them down for a year, get 20,000 miles on it, and sell it, which would be probably 80% of the bikes. They don't get that done, and that's really bad. So you want to ask them. You don't want to ask them, do you get the valve adjustment? Because, of course, everyone's going to say, yeah, of course, yeah, I got that. I wouldn't not get that. So ask them things. Someone who knows about a bike will correct you. So if you try to trick them, say, hey, you didn't do anything with your bike, like, get a valve adjustment, did you? And then they'll be like, oh, no, I don't mess around with that. Then you know that's not the bike to buy, because they obviously didn't do it. Now, if I were selling my bike and someone were to try to trick me and say, you didn't do anything with the bike, like get a valve adjustment, I'll be like, what are you talking about? Of course I did. You need that. That's the type of person you want to buy a bike from. And if you're planning on buying a 250, listen here. The valve adjustments you need every 3,000 miles. That's the downside of having a 250, since it operates at high RPMs, even the Ninja 300 they have now. If it operates at such high RPMs, it needs that every 3,000 miles. It's not as expensive, it's probably around $200, but if I had a 250, I would definitely learn it myself and do it. So that's a big thing to look at, because people have it for about 12 or 15,000 miles and have it done at once. Then you're in the shop paying out of pocket like $400. And another thing I forgot is the brakes. Brakes on motorcycles are expensive, and some people, they don't take care of it. What will happen is metal or going to grind against these rotors and wear them down, and even the slightest bit of wear and tear on these, they'll need replaced, and these aren't cheap. They're around probably $150 a piece. So you can inspect the brakes without taking everything off. I mean, you're not gonna roll up to the guy you're buying from and start taking apart the bike, but you could kind of peek down. If you could see that copperish color, if you look around the bike this way, you could usually see the brake pads. You probably can't see it on the camera, but you can see these are new brake pads I put on recently. You want to see how worn those down are. They're worn down quite a bit where they need replacing once you buy the bike. Try to negotiate the price. Say, hey, this bike needs $200 in brakes, both the front and back. And you could work your way around that. So that's the basics of buying a used bike. Of course, look at the mileage and any damages and subtract what the bike might be worth, depending on that, and you're good to go. For new videos, I'm thinking, someone gave me the idea to make this video, so that's why I made it. But I'm thinking a video, if you guys would be interested, let me know, leave a comment if this sounds good. But I was going to go down to the DMV and look at the track and probably run the track and show you what the test consists of, because I know a lot of you are looking to buy a bike. You haven't got your license yet and you're excited. That's why you're watching these videos, you want to know about it. You're smart, you're watching the videos learning instead of just going out and buying a bike and spending money, and it's going to be half broken if you buy it used. So there's probably other stuff you can look for a used bike, but that's the main things that come to mind for me. But yeah, let me know if you want to see that DMV thing. Leave some comments if enough people want to see it. I'll take the bike down there, show you the course and what it consists of. I don't know if for other countries. I know for the US here, it's pretty much standard throughout the states, but let me know. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next video.